She's the X-Men villain turned hero who just got introduced into Marvel Rivals and has a lot of people asking, who is Emma Frost? And more importantly, why do people like this character so much? So I wanted to make a video. I did something similar for the character Magic around when Marvel Rivals was like coming out, and also Magic had a solo book, so a lot of people were talking about Magic, and a lot of other people were like, who is this Magic character? I've seen the same thing happen for Emma Frost. I think it makes sense because they occupy a similar space where they're very popular for comic fans, but they haven't like broken through into the mainstream the same way a lot of other comic characters have, because the movies that they are in either didn't make a huge impact or they did not make a huge impact in that movie. So obviously Emma Frost does show up in X-Men First Class, played by January Jones, but I don't think that's a very good version of that character. In general, I think she's kind of boring. She doesn't have what I would call the juice, which is something that Emma Frost needs to have. I think we were close if Jessica Chastain in Dark Phoenix was supposed to play Emma Frost, which is like my pet theory. That's how that character was written. I think Jessica Chastain could have done it, but also that movie had a lot of other problems. And Emma was played by Finola Hughes in the TV show pilot movie thing Generation X, which, listen, it's not a very good movie. It's the one with the white Jubilee. But I will say, Finola Hughes, not a bad Emma Frost. Also, they cast the Banshee from the animated series as Banshee, and the Monet was almost good. And then Emma Frost also shows up in X-Men Origins Wolverine, where she is just like a little girl, and she like shows up in the very end, and then that's it. Completely ruins the timeline, and the timeline doesn't matter, but like she's one of those characters that exists in a way that just messes up the timeline. But like if there ever was going to be a consistent timeline, Emma Frost was going to be one of those things that they had to figure out. But this character's been in the comics for decades. She has a ton of fans, and I wanted to make a video for people that just gives you a sense for what this character's deal is and why people like her so much. And I will say off the top, like I said about Magic, although different, situation, I'm not going to pretend that a big part of the appeal of Emma Frost is not the fact that A, she's drawn like a supermodel, and B, she frequently wears like lingerie and incredibly like revealing clothing. I would say out of all of the X-Men and out of many characters in comics, I would say there's a case to be made that Emma Frost has the skimpiest outfits in all of Marvel Comics. I'd say she's right up there with maybe Black Cat and some other characters that I can't think of right now, but like that's part of her deal. And that is definitely part of the appeal. Also, and this is pretty clear in like Marvel Rivals, she has an attitude that I think is obviously pretty attractive to people, right? Like the idea that there's a blonde supermodel character who is mean to you, like, yeah, that's gonna be attractive to a lot of people. And I think it's easy to see Emma Frost and see like this character and go, oh, okay, that's the deal. All right, well, of course, that's gonna be a popular character. What are you gonna do? But there is more than that. But I do want to acknowledge up front, like, yes, just at face value, this character is attractive in a way that's just going to get some fans. I will say for people that are like, have I seen her and stuff, she plays a pretty big role in Wolverine in the X-Men, that animated series, and she showed up very briefly, although she had like 2 appearances in the middle episodes of X-Men 97 Season 1. I imagine she will play a bigger part of Season 2, but for now, she's, just kind of been a character that I think you could show someone and they go like, oh, right, I remember that. But okay, so let's talk about Emma Frost. Why do people like her? And what is her deal? And very basically, her deal is there's one thing people should like about her, or not like, I guess, but like, this is something that I don't see brought up nearly enough in terms of like fans of this character. She's from Boston. Bostonians tend to be very proud of their own, making it big. So I think Boston as a city and like Bostonian comic fans should get more into Emma Frost and like, she's part of Boston. She's from Boston, and she worked at the Massachusetts Academy later. It's not like she immediately left. So just because she doesn't sound like, Ben Affleck or something, I think she is a Bostonian. I do think her voice and like her affect does tend to make it seem like she's from a bunch of other places, but she is from Boston. Born to a somewhat wealthy family, got, telepathy, the power to read minds at a young-ish age. That ruined everything. Like, in some ways it was good because she was able to like cheat on tests and stuff, but in other ways, like, she read people's minds and like read too much into relationships. She had a very strange relationship with her teacher, where her teacher had thoughts about her and Emma was like, oh, you're in love with me. It's a very interesting situation, I think, for 2 reasons. One, it seems like one of those things where the teacher is preying on the student, and there's like an element of that, but it's more than that, and it makes Emma's journey in that more complicated. And then on the other hand, her dad, who is evil, or like mean evil dad who's got lots of money and stuff, set this all up to, I can't remember, get the teacher fired, I think. So, it's also kind of part of mind games. And she has a family that's not super important, although she has a brother that was gay. And I only say was gay. I don't remember if he's still in the comics or not. But like she has some family members. She would eventually, because of the relationship with this teacher, go into teaching. She was like, I want to be a teacher. And that is, I'm going to say, checkmark 1 in the Emma Frost is an interesting character checklist. She's a teacher. She gets a teaching degree. She works at the Massachusetts Academy, which is kind of the, I want to say, evil version of the Xavier Institute, because it's not quite evil, but like it's where the Hellions, who are like the mirror evil versions of the New Mutants at the time, are trained. And yeah, she's very similar to Professor X in that she's also a telepath, and she also has a school. But like, I think it's interesting because the X-Men live in a school, and the characters, like the older characters, end up teaching the new younger classes of X-Men. But in reality, like, that's not what they want to do, right? Cyclops does not want to be a teacher. I don't know what Cyclops wants to do. Let's say like Beast. Beast doesn't want to be a teacher. Beast wants to be a scientist. He wants to do science, and then he also wants to use his mutant powers to make everybody's lives better. But because he is part of the X-Men and he works at the Institute, he also teaches kids, and that's great. But like Emma Frost, first and foremost, wants to be a teacher, wants to take care of kids, and I think that makes her immediately stand out amongst all these other characters who are mentors to kids, but that's not their job. Emma Frost, like, that's what she came here for. I think that also leans into this idea that Emma Frost cares about the kids that she is in charge of teaching or taking care of differently than all the rest of the characters. It's not to say that like she loves her students more than Professor X loves his students or something, but I guess because she's the teacher, that is a relationship that we as readers are all familiar with. Everybody has had at least one teacher. Very frequently it's many teachers who like really cared about the students and like tried to help them succeed. And like Emma Frost is that kind of a character. And like I think can stand in that relationship in a way that, like I said, like Storm or Jean really don't. They could fill that role as like other kinds of mentor, but Emma's a teacher. Okay. So gets a job at the Massachusetts Academy, raises the Hellions. The Hellions are the evil versions of the New Mutants. And like, I don't mean like some of them are like more evil than others, but in general, like their powers are like opposite, Cat's Eye and Wolfsbane, Jetstream and Cannonball. Like they're all supposed to mirror each other. And does some schemes, tries to kidnap some characters. I think kidnaps Kitty at one point. Also at this point trains Firestar, Angelica, who is a character who is not traditionally like associated with the X-Men, although she is more recently. But like she is a character who is like a new warrior, but she was a mutant. So Emma Frost trains some mutants. They're bad guys. They fight the X-Men, the New Mutants, and they, come and go until they are all killed in this big fight with Sentinels that Emma Frost tries really desperately to save them from, but cannot. And this is one of the first instances of Emma surviving some ridiculous tragedy, like horrible mutant genocide times. And as the X-Men comics have ramped up, there have been more and more and more of those. But back in the day, there weren't that many. Like Emma Frost losing the Hellions was a big one. Also, the founding of the Hellfire Club, which is something Emma Frost is a part of. And I guess the forming of it in terms of Sebastian Shaw, the Black King, taking over also happens after the humans in the Hellfire Club try to kill all the mutants in the Hellfire Club with Sentinels and kill Lord Chantal, Sebastian Shaw's girlfriend. But like Emma Frost keeps getting attacked by Sentinels. And that's why it is so wild what she does in Humans vs. X-Men. But either way, Emma Frost is a survivor. That's, I say, what is, in my opinion, the most interesting thing about Emma Frost. She goes through these tragedies and grows from them, but unlike other characters who say would be like, oh, I gotta protect myself, I gotta take care of myself, she keeps going. She keeps being like, all right, well, I gotta try again. I'm gonna protect kids and take care of kids in this other way. And if anything, that strengthens her resolve, because she's like, wow, these people really want to kill us. We need people like myself who are able to protect these kids. And let's say this too, I think one of the reasons Emma Frost is so popular is because she has the best agent in comics. She's in what I think are debatably the 3 best X-Men arcs. Now, I believe the best X-Men story ever made is God Loves Man Kills, but that's just 2 issues. Like, that's not what I would consider an arc or like a big event or whatever. So she has a small role in the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga, because a lot of the beginning of the Dark Phoenix stuff happens at the Hellfire Society. So she's there for that, which is good because that is like the biggest X-Men event. They keep trying to make movies about it. Most people who are kind of familiar with the X-Men know Dark Phoenix is a thing. So if you just pick up that book and read it, you're going to be like, oh, this is Emma Frost. Okay, cool. She also shows up in the Morrison New X-Men relaunch, and that is a humongous, like, big point for the X-Men in terms of like a turning point culturally. It is probably the best run of those characters, and it introduces a lot of characters, but it also reintroduces Emma Frost and sets her up as a central figure in this narrative. So she's a big deal, and we'll get into why. And then Emma Frost played a pretty big role in the Krakoa arc. Now, Krakoa, everybody was in Krakoa, but Emma Frost was both part of the council and a main figure in what I would say is one of the best books in the Krakoa series, Marauders. So if you didn't read comics and you asked your friend, like, what are some X-Men stories I should read? There's a good chance they would say Dark Phoenix, the Morrison Quietly X-Men run, and then the Krakoa stuff. And if you read those, you would see Emma Frost in all of them. So even if you don't love her, she's on your radar in a way that, like, I don't know, the Shadow King probably isn't. Although, to be fair, he was cool in the Legions show, so he honestly might have a higher profile. But anyway, Emma Frost, great. So she starts up the Massachusetts Academy with Banshee now, so an X-Men character, and this is part of her face turn, as you would say. She used to be a bad guy, and like a really scheming, cackling bad guy, but because of these big events, you're seeing this redemption arc start up. And what I think is so important about Emma Frost's redemption arc, and me and Noel and all the smart people who are right, frequently bring up Mystique's redemption arc as sort of the opposite of this. I even think I said it in like a very recent video. It's a thing where it's like, yes, I get it, this is a fan favorite character, but like the idea that Avengers are coming to her wedding feels kind of insane, because Mystique has not really done the work to earn that. Whereas Emma Frost, starting after the Hellions were killed, has really like evolved as a character. So her and Banshee start Generation X. That's a team that people are kind of familiar with, probably mostly because it is where Jubilee gets a lot of the spotlight. It is also where some fan favorite characters like Husk, Chamber, and obviously one of the best, Monet, were all introduced in these books, or at least got big spotlights in these books. But then the most important thing, once Genosha, the mutant sanctuary, is created, Emma goes to teach there, and then the Sentinels, Wild Sentinels, show up and destroy it. This is part of Cassandra Nova's attack. This is the very beginning of the Morrison X-Men run. Now, Emma Frost, as we've discussed already, is a psychic, but that's it. However, at this moment, she gets a secondary mutation where she can turn her body into Diamond, and this happens in X-Men 97, but that's why she survives this. Now, all of her students die, and she has to witness for the second time a full, like, classroom of kids that she wants to grow up and have happy mutant lives all die in front of her. And this is, like, even worse than before, because with the Hellions, it was like, these are Sentinels coming, and, you know, we're getting in fights, and like the Hellions were kind of bad guys, and I don't think Emma thought they like deserved it, but like that was, I would say, a much more traditional like comic book fight. Some people die in it, but like in that moment, she is playing the role of villain, and the Hellions are, you know, antagonists. Here, like, she's a good guy, she's doing good guy stuff, and just minding her own business, and then all of Genosha is wiped out. She is like one of the only survivors of that massacre because her diamond skin makes her invulnerable. That's another great thing about Emma Frost. She has two powers. It's a cool power. She is a telepath, a very strong telepath. Like, I don't know if she's, I mean, they change the rankings all the time, and they're always introducing new characters who are more powerful, but I would say she's one of the more powerful Marvel telepaths in the game. And at the same time, she has unbreakable diamond skin. But, and this is why I like this part of her story, she can't use both at the same time. She either can do telepathy or has diamond skin, but it's not both. So there's like a moment in, I think, the Kieran Gillen Uncanny X-Men run where they're fighting a Celestial, and the Celestial just blows up part of her arm. But she's in diamond form, so Emma Frost is like, oh my god, my arm. But she's okay. But at the same time, she's like, I really need to use my telepathy to figure out which Mr. Sinister we have to kill, I think is what's going on in that book. So she has to stop being Diamond so she can do the psychic thing, and like at a cost to her, because now she has to feel the pain of the fact that her arm just got cut off. So stuff like that is cool. I think you can have characters with a lot of powers, but I think you also need good limitations. It's part of why I like the strong guy so much. He's really strong, but he needs to do something with that energy, otherwise he'll die, right? I think a good X-Men has the but. There is something about their powers that makes them not able to just win every fight. So Emma Frost then, in the Morrison run, joins the X-Men and joins the Xavier Institute that is at this point in the middle of a lot of stuff. Like we're saying, this Cassandra Nova thing, John Sublime and the U-Men are making life really difficult for them. And this group is basically only a couple of, like there's a lot of younger mutants, but the main characters here are going to be Emma, who joins. Jean is around for some of it. Beast is a main player at the X-Mansion. Xavier's there for some of it, although the Cassandra Nova thing makes it difficult. Wolverine is around for this, and then Cyclops. And this is where I think one of the things that people really like about Emma comes in, which is she had a relationship with Cyclops that people, including myself, really liked. I think was really interesting. Because Cyclops always been with Jean Grey. And he says this in these books. He's like, I have been with her since high school. I married her, and like, I love her. Obviously, I love her so much that when she died, I married her clone. And when she came back, I ditched the clone and went right back to her. Like, he's in. But at the same time, like, he is this Boy Scout who's never really been able as an adult to make that choice. Like, this has always just been his path. And he has this moment where he's like, what is that what I want? Like, does that make me happy? And if not, what am I looking for? Like, what kind of relationship is right for me at this point in my life? At the same time, Emma Frost, who, while she's gonna hang around with these X-Men, like, thinks they're all idiots. You know, that's always her deal. She's a big jerk. And in the same way that, like, she's very honest a lot of the time, but also, like, she is purposefully being mean. She's supposed to be kind of abrasive. She starts realizing, like, oh, but Cyclops is cool. Like, I like this guy. There's something about him that I find really charming. And there's even a panel, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's when she realizes, like, ah, God damn it, I'm in love with Scott Summers. Like, shoot, what a cliche. Now, they have a relationship behind Jean's back in their psychic, you know, chats, and it's very funny because Scott's like, it's not count, it's just a psychic hookup, and Jean and Emma, have a big fight. But I think that's really interesting because, like, this relationship, besides the fact that she kept dying, coming back, like, it wasn't always that interesting. There were moments where, like, Psylocke would throw herself at Cyclops and Jean would be like, hey, don't look over her. But this was a very interesting, like, very adult moment for Cyclops, and it felt very in line with what this book was doing, which was taking these characters we were all very familiar with and, like, giving it another look. And for Scott, that meant potentially dating someone, and instead of dating the, you know, nicest, most powerful, smartest mutant, he's instead now dating this jerk who is very powerful, very strong, but also, like, doesn't get along with anybody here, except for Beast. She gets along with Beast, because Beast gets, like, literature and culture, and Emma likes to think of herself as a very cultured person. But, like, beyond that, like, Wolverine doesn't like her. Most of the other X-Men that she's going to meet, like Kitty, don't like her. So that makes this relationship interesting. And I would say that's another thing that's really fun about Emma, is that if she is in a book, no matter what, she's going to do something interesting. She's going to have an interesting relationship with characters because either they're friends with her and it's like, awesome, we get to see these two hang out, cool. Or more frequently, it's like, this guy hates Emma Frost. He does not trust her. He doesn't want to work with her, but he needs to. So that's going to create tension that maybe you wouldn't get from, say, like Storm being in a group like that. Like if Storm is on a team with Gambit and Forge and Nightcrawler or whatever, that's fine. They all like each other. That's great. If Emma is on a team with Forge and Gambit and Nightcrawler, like, they will have feelings about her based on things that she's done to people that they care about, or maybe like the Hellfire Club did something weird to them and they just won't trust her. There's a lot of history with Emma that I think is part of why this redemption arc is interesting, is because even today there's characters that don't really like her, but they still will work with her and they will understand that, like, she's trying, and at the same time, she's not, like, completely changing who she is. She's still very much Emma Frost, but she is growing from being a villain to, like, being one of the leaders of the X-Men. And, like, when they eventually start the Xavier Institute again, I don't think they've done that yet in the comics, like, I feel like she should probably be in charge, and I think that'd be pretty cool. So she dates Scott for a while too. Like, this relationship lasts through the Morrison run, lasts through Astonishing, Utopia stuff. They have a falling out after the Phoenix 5, which Avengers vs. X-Men, I think, it feels like it's kind of a dumb event, but I think that was a fun event. I think it did cool things with these characters. It was one of those books where at the end the characters were all like, but I was kind of taken over by the Phoenix. Like, did I really kill Professor Xavier? Not really. And everybody else is like, but you did though. And he's like, I know, but like, did I? The same way Emma Frost and Scott have some arguments, and he steals her Phoenix power during that. But at the same time, it's like, doesn't really count. That's why, like, I don't love the resolution in that book, but it is cool to see Emma, now with all of this power, fighting for mutant kind. It's like a natural extension of what she's always wanted and what, she wants to protect mutants. And again, it's why it's so crazy that in the X-Men vs. Inhumans event, even though, like, the lives of mutants were on the line and stuff, same stakes, Emma Frost used Sentinels on the Inhumans, which, like, if there's one thing she would never do, it is send Sentinels to kill people, because she has been on the other end of that so many times. But like, we don't talk about that book. It does have that cool moment where she's training with the stopwatch that they put in Marvel Rivals. So that's the only thing I'd say. You want to read that page, that's kind of cool. And then, yeah, in Krakoa, she was one of the leaders. Like I said, she got very close with Kate Pryde, and I think Kate, Kitty, Shadowcat, like that character, used to hate Emma Frost, especially in the Astonishing books. But like, even before that, like, I'm pretty sure like Emma kidnapped Kitty Pryde in like a New Mutants book. So they never got along until Krakoa, when they started working together and really like understood each other. Like, she doesn't have very many close friends. Emma, close with Scott, trusts Scott, close with Kitty now after Krakoa. She has a relationship with Banshee and Jubilee and characters that were in Generation X. Also married Iron Man, which is something that was so fun in the comics, because I feel like it got a lot of representation. Like, this is the cover, the Emma cover, because it was one of those two covers. And like, I think it seemed like at the time when I was dumb, like, oh, we want to sell a lot of issues to people like me who just buy, like, oh, this is important. And like, the actual relationship between the characters wasn't even really a thing. She was pretending to be a different character, and he was Iron Man, but they were working together secretly, but like, people couldn't know that. So at one point, she was meeting with him alone, and he appeared to be proposing to her. And instead of outing, like, oh no, this is Emma Frost and we're having a secret meeting, he had to be like, we're getting married, like, you're gonna marry me? And then they did actually get married for a little bit. But what I think was so cool about that book is, like, they got along really well, and that relationship was also interesting. And like, I think whenever Emma Frost is forced to be, close to a character and have a relationship like that with a character, it usually ends up interesting. I'm of the mind that I think she's a really good pairing for Scott. I'd like to see that one play out long term, but also if they want to try this Iron Man thing again, I think there's something there. And like, I think personality wise, you probably have a character in your head that is like Emma Frost. Like, she has the vibe of like a Real Housewife, except she thinks she's better than a lot of these people. She thinks like, oh, these guys are idiots, everything they're doing is stupid. And like, she really does respect some of them, but like, Emma Frost is a character who acts like other characters are beneath her. I think what makes her more interesting than like one of the Real Housewives is she can back it up because she's got a lot of superpowers and she's really smart, and B, she's been through a lot. So like, a lot of this anger and like hostility that's coming out of her, especially like later on when she's been through so many mutant genocides, is her way of protecting herself, like insulating herself, because she doesn't want to lose more people. And she kind of keeps herself at a distance. She says that once at one point. She's like, I don't really have a lot of friends, but like, I'm a diamond, so technically I am my own best friend. And like, that's how she sees herself. And I think that's really interesting. She's showing up in the second season of Marvel Rivals. So far, we've seen two outfits. The main outfit, which is like a fine, White Queen outfit. Oh, by the way, White Queen, if I wasn't clear about this, is like a designation in the Hellfire Club. And the Hellfire Club is an evil secret society in like New York that the men wear wigs and like dress like Ben Franklin, and the women dress like Victoria's Secret models. They used to have a big gala. I don't think they did for a while, but then when Krakoa started, Emma was like, let's bring that back and make it kind of the mutant Met Gala, because she loves fashion and she loves making statements and like having big parties. So that's why the Hellfire Gala is such a big part of Krakoa, this mutant nation that was started in the comics, 5 years ago. I mean, the character of the sentient island of Krakoa has been around for a while, but the idea of using that as a mutant nation is a relatively new concept. But that's what the Hellfire Gala is. So having Emma come in and be the spokesperson for that, I think makes sense. I love having her in this game because she doesn't get a lot of play. Like, she is in this game before a character like Beast or Cyclops or Jean, and I have a feeling those other characters will probably make it into the game soon. But I like that Emma Frost and some of the other like lesser known characters in Marvel, like Magic and Squirrel Girl and stuff, are getting the spotlight in this big, very popular, very fun game. I will say the second outfit that Emma Frost has, this black outfit, is something that she wore during the, what I would call like the revolutionary arc, where Cyclops was like a revolutionary figure who was fighting for mutant rights, and he was completely outside of the Xavier Institute. She has this, pretty ridiculous black outfit with a lot of exposed skin. They somehow made it more of that in Rivals. They also gave her a funky haircut. But like that is from the comics. I think if they keep doing it, like if they keep making Emma Frost skins, there's gonna be some really weird ones. And I would say for most people, just trust that that's probably in the comics. There's a lot of really good covers that come out, I think they're by Russell Dodderman, that have like all of the costumes the character has worn. So, pull that up and see if any of them look like what they had in Marvel Rivals. Because if they put, say, the Morrison Quietly era costume in Marvel Rivals, that's going to turn a lot of heads, but that is technically something from the comics. I will say, I've heard a lot of people say that Emma is a little much, and she is like the next step in, which is this game very sexualizing a lot of these women. I think that is fair, and I think that is true to Emma Frost. So I think what we need to start doing, equal opportunity, like get the guys, let's do like the Marvel swimsuit issue or something for Iron Man and Captain America and stuff. Make it fair. I think like there's a world where you could do like a toned down version of Emma Frost, and that would be fine. But I don't know, it just feels like kind of boring. Whereas I feel like Emma Frost should have costumes that, even if they're not like the most provocative, should be like eye catching, because like, wow, that is something. And I think that's something they got at here. One other thing, Emma Frost, you've seen pictures of her. We've just looked at so many. Traditionally, the same body type as all the rest of these women, which like she's like a supermodel. I think it's part of what is fun about her though. Like all of the X-women are built like supermodels. She's the only one that acts like it. And not even by acts like it, I mean like acts like it in a like wears like really skimpy outfits, but just like acts like it in terms of like, yeah, I'm really, really attractive. Like you can see it, right? A lot of the other characters like Jean Grey, I wouldn't say really do that much. They're more modest, which is fine. I just think it's funny that realistically the space between like Rogue, Jean Grey, Emma, Storm, all these X-women, they all have very similar silhouettes. But what I think is interesting is they chose to give Emma a short haircut, so that's good. That's going to differentiate her on the battlefield. And B, more interestingly, enormous thighs, like Chun-Li thighs. That is not something that she's known for in the comics. I wouldn't say I've ever seen that. So if you're ever like, why did they make that choice? I think it's good. It makes her look different than the other characters. And obviously people are very excited about the jiggling and all that. But in general, I think this is a new direction for Emma Frost in terms of a design decision. And we'll see, maybe it'll carry over. Maybe this will be something that they decide like that's, how we're going to draw Emma in the future. I don't know. But that is a brief, and not brief. Well, I mean, brief, in the grand scheme of things. Well, like half an hour. That's not that long compared to like eons and eons. So maybe it is brief. Look at Emma Frost, a character that I understand why a lot of people think, oh, she's just like the supermodel one. And she is, but also she's had a lot of history. She had a lot of really interesting relationships in the comics, and she, more than anything else, she's a survivor. She's a teacher. She cares about the kids, and she's kind of a jerk. So she's a lot of fun. But you know what else is fun? Nebula. It is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create with a bunch of my other YouTube friends. People you definitely know if you like my channel, like Patrick Willems, Captain Midnight, Big Joel, H-Bomber Guy, Princess Weeks, and a bunch of others. Go to the Culture tab and just poke around. You will find someone you already love. And for my Nando V Movies and Nando Cut videos, the entire Nando Cinematic Universe, they all go up early on Nebula. The Nando V Movies videos are usually a week early. The Nando Cut videos are usually closer to a day or so. But when it comes to a movie review, that can mean the difference between me recommending recommending you immediately see a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine, or me warning you that you immediately see a movie like Madam Web. Either way, see Madam Web. Madam Web's great. Also, if you've seen these ads in the past, you've definitely seen me talk about Abolish Everything, a new show that was coming to Nebula. Well, they recorded it, and it came to Nebula, and it's great. It is so funny. I had such a good time watching it. Check out the trailer online, and then definitely go watch an episode. I don't know if you guys are like me, but this is the kind of thing I could watch full seasons of. You can also download videos to the Nebula app and watch them wherever you want. And we're adding new creators every day. We have guest passes. It's really incredible. And speaking of incredible, Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. That is $3 a month. It's an incredible deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. You're going to love it.